June 26, 1943. High over the fields of northern France, Colonel Hubert Hub Zemke squints through his canopy as tracers streak past his cockpit. The Luftwaffe has caught his squadron strung out, and cannon shells rip into his P-47. He braces for the fireball that should come, but instead the fuselage only shudders like steel beams under a hammer. The gauges stay steady, the engine roars on, and Zemke realizes with a jolt that his aircraft is absorbing punishment no fighter has any right to survive. "The jug can take it," he mutters over the radio, his voice half disbelief, half pride, recorded later in his combat report. In that frozen second, the myth of the Thunderbolt's resilience begins to take form in the minds of both American and German pilots. A flash of sparks lights the gray sky. Enemy shells ricochet off the P-47's thick hide, leaving scorched streaks but no fatal cracks. The air smells of cordite and burned oil, a chemical stench mixed with the icy rush of altitude. German pilots dive in tighter, pressing their attack, convinced no plane could endure this level of fire. Yet the Thunderbolt refuses to fall. Its heavy wings slice through the turbulence like train wheels locked on rails. Each vibration a reminder that brute mass can be its own armor. To the Luftwaffe, it looks less like an agile enemy fighter and more like a moving fortress with the bite of 8.50 caliber guns. The reason this duel matters lies not in a single aircraft, but in the arithmetic of war. Each bomber escorted by the P-47 carries up to 8,000 pounds of bombs, a flying warehouse of destruction aimed at German factories, rail junctions, and oil fields. Multiply that by a formation of 60 bombers, and suddenly 500,000 pounds of steel and explosives are crossing Europe in one wave. Every mile these machines fly closer to the Ruhr or Berlin threatens Germany's industrial arteries. Without escorts, bomber crews fall like wheat under scythes. With Thunderbolts overhead, the Luftwaffe faces a different equation. How many fighters must they throw into the sky, and how many shells must they fire before a jug finally falls? That cold math, the tons carried, the distances covered, the armor endured, makes the P-47 a strategic pivot point in the air war. The camera shifts from the cockpit to the factories, where the war is fought not with bullets, but with blueprints. In New Jersey, rows of assembly lines hum like conveyor belts of destiny. Men and women in overalls rivet steel, test engines, and pack crates with precision instruments. Intelligence officers pore over Luftwaffe strength reports at the same hour, mapping weaknesses, decoding intercepts, and passing messages stamped secret across polished desks. This montage of muscle and mind explains the Thunderbolt's rise. Engineers pushing metallurgy to withstand brutal stress, codebreakers predicting when German squadrons would scramble, and planners aligning the weight of industry behind a single machine. War, in this sense, is not just fought in the air, but in drafting rooms, machine shops, and offices that smell of ink and carbon paper. Then comes the cold, clinical breakdown of the loadout. The Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, powered by the Pratt & Whitney R2800 Double Wasp, a 2,000 horsepower radial engine that drinks high-octane fuel by the gallon. Armor plating around the cockpit measures nearly half an inch, enough to deflect cannon fire that would shred lighter fighters. 8 Browning .50 caliber M2 machine guns line its wings, each capable of spitting out over 13 rounds per second. A fully loaded jug carries 3,400 rounds, meaning in one burst, a pilot can lay down a curtain of lead that weighs as much as a car engine. Its top speed pushes past 420 miles per hour, its dive acceleration unmatched in the skies of 1943. Production figures roll out in blunt numbers, 500 units a month by late 43, a total that outpaces entire Luftwaffe aircraft classes. To a German pilot reading a captured spec sheet, the Thunderbolt is not a fighter, it is a flying contradiction, too heavy to dance, yet too tough to stop. The first real clash seals the impression. Over the rolling farmland of occupied Belgium, P-47s escort B-17 flying fortresses bound for industrial targets. The Luftwaffe attacks in disciplined waves, 109s and FW-190s swooping in with cannons flashing. Explosions hammer the formation. A Jug at the rear takes a direct hit to the wing root. Smoke pours out, but it stays in line, guns answering back. Another P-47 dives to chase a German fighter, trading altitude for speed until the gauges rattle like overworked pistons. At ground level, farmers glance up from ruined fields to see the duel. Silver American aircraft streaking through tracer webs, refusing to fall. For the first time, German reports note with frustration that Thunderbolts are returning to base riddled with holes, yet still airworthy. The war in the sky has gained a new weight, and the enemy can feel it in the recoil of every wasted round. Night settles over airfields in England, but adaptation never sleeps. The U.S. Army Air Forces confront the problem of range. Thunderbolts can fight, but they cannot yet follow bombers all the way to Berlin. Engineers and tacticians scramble for countermoves. Ground crews bolt on external fuel tanks, ungainly but essential, allowing P-47s to stretch hundreds of extra miles. Radar operators track Luftwaffe formations leaving their bases, warning bomber streams minutes before contact. Commanders restructure escort tactics. Instead of hugging tight to bombers, Thunderbolts begin sweeping ahead, clearing the skies before German fighters can pounce. Each adjustment is mechanical precision, like gears locking into a wider machine. Every hour shaved from the Luftwaffe's initiative means more bombers survive, more targets struck, and more pressure applied to German industry already straining under Allied weight. But the Thunderbolt's strength does not erase the limits of human flesh and machine endurance. Pilots strap themselves into freezing cockpits before dawn, breathing thin oxygen at altitudes where temperatures fall below -40. Hours of scanning the sky leave eyes bloodshot, hands numb, and nerves wired to breaking. The massive double-wasp engine sometimes runs hot. Oil leaks spread across cowlings, gauges flutter, turbos seize. Aircraft come back scarred, panels ripped, hydraulics groaning, control cables frayed. Even the strongest frame can only bend so far before stress fractures begin to appear. For the men flying them, every mission feels like sitting inside a pressure chamber waiting for the rivets to pop. Quote, "Fatigue was the silent killer," noted Captain Robert S. Johnson in his diary, July 1943. His entry captured the truth. No matter how resilient the Jug seemed, the pilot inside carried the same fragile heartbeat as any other man at war. Then the setback hits with brutal clarity. October 14, 1943, later remembered as Black Thursday. Thunderbolts escort bombers deep into Germany, but fuel limits force many to turn back before the target. The B-17s press on toward Schweinfurt, where ball bearing plants keep German armor and aircraft moving. Waiting for them are over 300 Luftwaffe fighters. The sky becomes a slaughterhouse. 60 bombers are lost, hundreds of airmen killed or captured, a crippling blow that shakes American strategy. P-47 squadrons return furious, their radios filled with curses and clipped reports. Despite their armor, despite their firepower, the Thunderbolts cannot cover every mile. For the first time, confidence cracks. The Luftwaffe has shown that even the toughest fighter cannot yet guarantee victory when distance stretches too far. Workshops and hangars become laboratories of urgency. Engineers sketch modifications overnight, crews test them the next morning, and pilots fly with the results by afternoon. The P-47 evolves mid-war, absorbing each lesson like steel reforged in a furnace. New drop tanks appear, shaped for less drag, boosting range without killing speed. Field mechanics improvise with spare parts, patching battle-scarred Jugs so they return to the sky within hours instead of weeks. Pilots refine tactics, high-altitude sweeps, diving slashing attacks, rapid climbouts that exploit the Jug's brute weight. At bases in England, ground crews learn to reload ammunition belts faster than a watchmaker resets gears, turning what could be downtime into continuous cycles of combat. This constant improvisation hardens the Thunderbolt into something Germany had not anticipated, a warplane that adapts as quickly as the men who fly it. By the spring of 1944, the air war reaches a breaking point. The Jug now carries drop tanks and escorts bombers all the way to the heart of Germany. Luftwaffe pilots pour fire into the oncoming formations and watch in disbelief as rounds spark and fizzle against armored cockpits. German after-action reports complain of P-47s shrugging off damage that would have torn a Messerschmitt apart. In a thunderous dive, the Jug becomes a spear of metal, accelerating past 500 miles per hour, faster than any enemy can follow without risking structural collapse. Below, its 8 guns light up rail yards, convoys, and troop columns, spewing streams of lead that carve holes through the Reich's lifelines. The climax comes in May over Berlin. Thunderbolts slash into Luftwaffe defenders, break their formations, and open a corridor for bombers that unload thousands of pounds of ordnance on the city. For Axis pilots, it feels like fighting a wall of steel that moves and kills at will.